Hello and welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is What Happened Was... playing at the Minetta Lane Theater as part of Audible and TOGETHER Theater. Before I jump into this interesting play that I'd never seen before, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me grow this channel, and I really appreciate it. Okay, let's jump into this play. What did I know going in to see What Happened Was? Not a whole lot. I knew Cecily Strong was in it, and I knew it was a two-person play, and that was about it. One thing I wish I'd known before walking into this play was that it was actually written back in 1992, and I'm assuming it's set around that time. The printed program doesn't tell you when because they've got a little QR code for the full program, which I probably should have checked out. But I just, once the lights went down, I did kind of spend a little bit of time in the back of my brain trying to figure out what the time period for this play was. And I finally landed on around the 90s, which I think was correct. But I was like, is it 80s, 90s? But anyhow, based on the costumes and everything, it felt like 90s. But that's a little minor quibble. So I would just like to have known that. That's the issue we have with these QR programs. So a little bit about the backstory. What Happened Was started out as a play that Tom Noonan wrote for himself back in 1992 at a little New York theater called Paradise Factory. And he did the play opposite Karen Sillas. They rehearsed it for something like 6 months, and in 1994, Noonan adapted it into a film, which he also directed and starred in. He shot the whole thing in 11 days for about $300,000, and he apparently finished the edit hours before the Sundance Film Festival deadline. And then this movie went on to win the Grand Jury Prize and the Waldo Salt Screenwriter Award at Sundance that year. So this play is a little indie legend, even though the distributor had no idea what to do with it. The theatrical run only grossed about $327,000. But hey, at least he made his money back. It's worth mentioning that Tom Noonan passed away this past February at 74. You may also know him as the serial killer in Manhunter. So this revival is carrying a little extra weight. It's the first major New York revival of this play in almost 30 years. It's directed by Ian Rickson, and it's running for just about 30 performances between April 14th and June 14th as part of Audible Theater and TOGETHER's 2026 season. So, What Happened Was about? Now, on the surface, it's pretty simple. Two co-workers at a Manhattan law firm. Jackie, played by Cecily Strong, is an executive assistant, aka secretary, and Michael, played by Corey Stoll, is a paralegal at the same firm. Jackie has invited Michael over to her studio apartment for a dinner date. That is pretty much the entire setup, and the play is just what happened over the course of one evening between these two. There really isn't a lot of plot in the traditional sense. The date itself is the story, the conversation, the awkward pauses, the little disclosures. That's how we learn who these two people are, these two lonely people. And as the night goes on, Jackie starts revealing that she's a lot more damaged and, dare I say, crazier than she appeared to be when the lights first came up. And Michael, who comes in so locked down he won't even take off his overcoat, he slowly thaws into something a little more human. So let me talk a little bit about what worked and what didn't work for me. On the positive side, this production is good. The direction is strong, the acting is strong, it feels organic, it feels truthful. There are real emotions, there's highs and lows, there's moments of explosion, moments that are quiet and tender. It has all the trappings of a really good play. And Corey Stoll and Cecily Strong are both clearly committed, and I think they're doing excellent work. The single biggest moment of the night, the thing that gets the biggest laugh and the biggest applause, is when Cecily Strong's character Jackie reads a chapter from a children's book she's been writing. And it is hilarious. I mean, it's really dark. And the sense of the humor in the book is so unhinged and so specific and so funny. I was wishing that the rest of the play was at the same level as this crazy kid's book. Which gets me to my hesitation. So I related to this in that I'm single, I live in a studio in Manhattan, and both characters talk about being writers. So on paper, I should be the ideal audience for this, but I had a hard time emotionally connecting to either of these characters. They felt more like playwrights' constructions than two human beings in a room. I kept thinking about Terrence McNally's Frankie and Johnny and the Clair de Lune, which is also about two very sad, lonely people on a date. Well, It's a little different sort of a date because they start out in bed. But the difference for me is that I understood exactly who those characters were, and I understood the choices that they were making, and every beat was logical and emotionally legible. With What Happened Was, I felt like I was trying to figure out who these people were for the full 80 minutes. And by the end, I still didn't feel like I really understood who they were, especially Michael. And there may be some small spoilers here. We learned later in the play that he didn't even realize this was a date, which, okay, but it raises more questions than answers. Like, why did he come? Why is he there? Why won't he take off his overcoat? Why is he scared to taste the food she made? And then once he discovers it's good, he's devouring it. These are all like characteristics that made him very quirky, but made him difficult for me to access as an audience member. And I think a lot of these choices were made more by the actor than they were in the script. And while I think these choices were very comical and funny, they kind of muddied him as being a relatable human being. Jackie keeps telling us that he's so funny and charming at the office, but the man we're watching in this apartment isn't funny and charming. And Jackie, who supposedly finds him hilarious at work, is missing most of his jokes here. And I guess you could chalk that up to just the difference in the location. But for me, the logic just kept feeling a little wobbly. And there is one specific beat that I do want to flag. Jackie tells us late in the play that she's been planning this date for weeks, rehearsing what she's going to say, thinking through every detail and every moment. And that's really enlightening information, except it felt like new information to me because at the top of the play, when the buzzer rings and Michael is early, she's thrown, but she wasn't thrown enough to me. If she's been planning this for weeks, his arriving early should be an earthquake. And the dress that she's going to wear is wrong. The couch isn't set, the table isn't ready, and her whole world should be collapsing. I wanted to feel the size of the stakes at the top of the play, not at the end, so that I could really get invested and ride through. So I felt like I got that information about 30 minutes too late. I think overall, the critical response to this play has been excellent. I think the performances are very winning, and that the reading of the children's book is really hysterical. That was the highlight of the play. And I think this is a strong realization of the material, but my hesitation isn't with the production, it's more with the play itself. Also, right before I'm recording this, like 15 minutes ago, I looked up the 1994 film on YouTube. It's there and you can watch it. And I just watched about the first 15 or 20 minutes, and I was really struck by the differences. For one thing, Michael is not wearing an overcoat on his suit coat. So when she asked to take his coat, it makes sense that he would wear his suit coat but in this play version, he's wearing a full overcoat. And so the fact that he wouldn't take it off made him so weird. So watching the movie on YouTube, the characters feel much more realistic, but they're less funny because they're not making these huge choices, like theatrical choices. But I do have to note that in the movie, when the buzzer rings, Jackie is running around like a madwoman. She also changes out of her office dress and into a different dress, which to me just made more sense. So, I mean, movies are usually more realistic in general, but a lot of the things that confused me in the play made sense to me in the movie. But the bigger picture is that the movie feels more like a drama, and the play, at least the start of it, feels more like a comedy. So it's kind of a trade-off of which you want. Films are more relatable, but the play squeezes more humor out of these weird little idiosyncrasies. And I'm not sure that one version is right, but Tom Noonan is in the film and he did write it. And I'm curious if he was translating the play he did onto film. Probably yes. So, was I bored? Was I confused? I wasn't bored because it's only 80 minutes. And though I wasn't fully emotionally invested because I was confused by these characters and I was doing detective work to try to figure out who they were the whole time, I was actively engaged because I was trying to solve the dilemma, and that kept me engaged. The frustrating part is that when it was over, I felt like the clues didn't add up to a coherent picture. I knew more facts about them at the end of the play than I did at the beginning, but I still didn't feel like I really knew them. So I was engaged, not bored, but not emotionally drawn into it either. Was I confused? Yes, and it was, sort of the same conversation. I was confused by the characters themselves. their choices didn't track for me. The reactions didn't feel logical, and they just ended up feeling like two crazy people. And so I don't know if I want the two crazy people to be together or have them go get therapy. You know, I felt a little bit like I was at the zoo watching two exotic creatures. And I really wanted to relate to these people and not observe them at a distance. So not bored, but still in the end, I was a little confused by who these people actually were, especially by Michael. So to wrap this up, the short version, not bored, but kind of confused. It's well acted, it's well directed production of the play. I just think I maybe find the play itself a little wanting. I don't know if there's ever been a version of this play that's truly blown the roof off, but this one feels like it's giving the material everything it's got. So the reasons to go see this play: the acting is strong, the direction is strong, and this is the first major New York revival of What Happened Was in nearly 30 years, arriving just after Tom Noonan's death. So if you care about downtown New York playwriting or about Noonan as an artist, that alone is a reason to go see this, because it is a solid production. And honestly, the children's book reading is so funny, and that to me was worth the price of admission. So I was lucky enough to get press tickets to see this. I was sitting in the orchestra off the side of the aisle, which was great because I could look down the aisle when people's heads get in the way. Because the Minetta Lane Theater, I actually prefer the mezzanine because it's got a nice rake to it. In the orchestra, I find that as you get towards the back of the orchestra especially, you just got a lot of people's heads in your way. So you're having to do a little dodge and weaving. Luckily, I was on the aisle, so I just leaned way out into the aisle and I was able to see the stuff I was missing. So the great thing too about Audible and the Minetta Lane Theater, this Together project that Hugh Jackman started with Sonia Friedman, is that they are affordable tickets. You can get $35 tickets on the TodayTix app. And that's what I did when I saw Sexual Misconduct, which I loved. So that, you know, they brought this back from last year because I think it was just a hit. I really love this play. So you can get 35 tickets to that. Also this, What Happened Was. And then I'm hoping to be able to check out Newborn, which May 8th through June 8th is happening soon. But you can catch What Happened Was through June 14th. Score yourself a $35 ticket. I think it's worth it for that. Check it out, come back, tell me what you thought. Maybe do like I did and watch the film. I actually need to watch the whole film, but I have to go see a matinee of Joe Turner's Come and Gone. I gotta wrap this thing up. That's why I'm talking so fast. All right, it's fun to just get these out so quick. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate you watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will catch you at the next one. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay